You stand barefoot on the red earth of the Eurotas Valley, feeling the bite of the morning chill against your skin. You are only 7 years old, but childhood as you knew it has just ended. Behind you lies the warmth of your family home and the soft bed you will never sleep in again. Ahead is the Agoge, the brutal system that will forge you into a peerless warrior or break you entirely. You hear the sharp command of an instructor and the rhythmic thud of feet against the dirt. There is no room for tears here, only strength and silence. In Sparta, you do not belong to your family. You belong to the state. The sun rises over the jagged peaks of Mount Taygetus, casting long shadows over the boys who will become your only brothers. Welcome to the hardest upbringing the world has ever known. Imagine for a moment that you are standing in a small, dimly lit room in the Eurotas Valley. The air is thick with the scent of olive oil and wood smoke. Outside, the Mediterranean sun is beating down on the dust of the Spartan streets. But inside, the atmosphere is heavy with a different kind of heat. It is the heat of anticipation and a crushing, quiet dread. You are a Spartan father, a man who has spent your entire life training for the singular purpose of war. You have stood in the phalanx, you have felt the weight of the bronze shield on your arm, and you have survived the most brutal educational system the world has ever seen. But today, you are not facing an enemy army. You are facing something far more terrifying. You are holding your newborn son. In any other city in the ancient world, from Athens to Corinth, this would be a moment of celebration. There would be garlands on the door and the sound of flutes. But you are in Sparta. Here, the bonds of blood are secondary to the needs of the state. You look down at the tiny, fragile life in your arms, and you know that your love for him matters very little. His life does not belong to you. It does not belong to his mother, who watches you from the corner of the room with a face like a mask, her eyes hard and dry. In Sparta, children are the property of the city. They are the future of the machine. You wrap the infant in a simple cloth. There is no time for soft lullabies or gentle cradling. You must take him to a place called the Lesche. This is the gathering hall of the elders of your tribe. As you walk through the streets, you do not see the marble temples or the grand theaters of the Athenians. Sparta is a collection of villages, modest and stern. The people you pass do not smile at the sight of a new father. They look at the bundle in your arms with a clinical, detached interest. They are wondering if this child will grow to stand beside them in the shield wall, or if he is a flaw in the design that must be discarded. You reach the Lesche and step into the shadows. Sitting there on stone benches are the elders of the Gerousia. These are men who have lived past the age of 60, a feat that is almost legendary in a society that treats death as a daily companion. Their skin is like cured leather, etched with the scars of 100 skirmishes. Their eyes are cold and analytical. They do not greet you with warmth. They do not congratulate you on the birth. They simply signal for you to bring the child forward. This is the inspection. You place your son on the cold ground or hold him up before them. The elders do not look for a resemblance to his mother or the shape of your family nose. They are looking for something much more specific. They examine the straightness of his limbs. They feel the strength of his joints. They look for any sign of a clubfoot, a withered arm, or a cloudy eye. They are looking for physical perfection. To the Spartan mind, a person who is not physically whole is a liability. A soldier with a limp cannot hold his place in the phalanx. A man with a weak constitution will fall ill on the march and slow the army down. In their eyes, a weak child is not a tragedy to be nurtured, but a broken gear in a machine that must be perfect. While the elders poke and prod at the infant, You might think of the stories told of Lycurgus, the legendary lawgiver who shaped your entire way of life. It was Lycurgus who decreed that it was better for a child who was not born healthy and strong to die, for such a child would be of no use to himself or to the state. This is the core of the Spartan soul. The individual has no value outside of their utility to the community. But the physical inspection is only the first part of the trial. If the elders are satisfied with the child's form, the next test begins. This is not a test of character, for a newborn has none. It is a test of the very spark of life within him. In many accounts, it is said that Spartan mothers did not wash their newborns with water. Instead, they used undiluted wine. You watch as the elders or the nurses prepare a basin of dark, pungent wine. They believe that a sickly or epileptic child will react poorly to the harshness of the alcohol. They believe a weak child will wither, convulse, or faint when bathed in it. But a strong child, they say, will be tempered by the wine like steel being plunged into oil. It is a ritual of hardening. You hold your breath as your son is lowered into the liquid. If he cries out with a piercing, healthy strength, there is a glimmer of hope. If he goes limp or struggles to breathe, his fate is sealed. If the elders find the child wanting, if they see any defect or sign of weakness, the sentence is immediate. There is no appeal. There is no crying out for mercy. The child is taken to a place known as the apothetai. The word itself translates to the place of rejection. It is a dark, jagged chasm at the foot of Mount Taygetos. The mountain looms over the valley like a silent executioner. You know what happens there. The child is cast into the pit or left on the mountainside to die of exposure. To a modern ear, this is an unthinkable horror, a crime beyond comprehension. But to the Spartan, this was an act of mercy for the state. They believed that leaving a weak child to grow into a weak adult was a cruelty to the city and a waste of resources. They would rather the earth take the child back than allow a flawed man to weaken the walls of the city. However, let us say your son passes the inspection. The elders nod their approval. They assign him a plot of land, a kleros, which will be his to farm when he reaches adulthood. They have officially recognized him as a potential citizen. You are allowed to take him home, but do not think for a moment that the danger has passed. The next 7 years of his life are merely a preparation for the true ordeal. When you return to your home, your son is handed back to his mother. Spartan women are legendary for their toughness. They are the ones who will say to their sons, "Come back with your shield or on it." They do not coddle their infants. There is no soft wrapping or swaddling clothes that restrict the movement of the limbs. Spartan babies are left free so that their bodies can grow without restraint. They are not picked up every time they cry. They are taught from the very cradle that the world is a cold place and that their needs are secondary to their endurance. They are trained not to be afraid of the dark, not to be picky about their food, and not to be prone to whims or tantrums. You watch your son crawl across the dirt floor of your home, and you realize that even now he is being watched. Every neighbor, every passing soldier, every elder is an evaluator. The entire city is a school, and the curriculum is survival. You cannot protect him. In fact, to protect him would be to fail him. If you soften his path now, he will break when the state takes him at the age of 7. You must be as cold as the mountain wind. You must look at your child and see not a son, but a future hoplite. This is the paradox of growing up in Sparta. Your life begins with a death sentence that is only narrowly avoided. From the moment you draw your first breath, you are measured against an impossible standard of physical excellence. You are born into a society that values you only for what you can give to the collective, and what they want from you is everything. They want your labor, they want your loyalty, and eventually they will want your blood. As the years of early childhood pass, you see your son growing stronger. He runs through the hills, his skin bronzed by the sun. He plays games with the other boys that often end in bruises and blood. There are no toys here, no stories of whimsical gods. There are only stories of heroes who died for the city. You see him looking at the older boys, the ones who have already been taken into the Agoj, the state training system. He looks at them with a mixture of fear and longing. He knows that his time in the warmth of the home is short. The apothecary was not just a physical place. It was a psychological shadow that hung over every Spartan household. It was the reminder that your existence was a privilege granted by the state, not a right. It was the foundation of the Spartan character, the knowledge that you had been chosen because you were the best, the strongest, and the most capable. It created a sense of elite superiority, but also a profound, underlying pressure. To be a Spartan was to be a survivor of the pit. As the sun sets over the Eurotas Valley, casting long, dark shadows from the peaks of Mount Taygetos, you sit outside your home. You hear the rhythmic sound of soldiers marching in the distance. You look at your son, now 6 years old, sleeping on a hard mat. Tomorrow is his 7th birthday. In the morning, you will not give him a gift. You will not hold a feast. Instead, you will walk him to the barracks and hand him over to the state. The time of the home is over. The time of the wolf is beginning. You have kept him alive this long, but now his true trial starts. The apothecary was only the beginning of the winnowing. The city is ready to take what belongs to it. You open your eyes to a world that does not whisper. In most parts of the Greek world, a newborn is greeted with soft songs, wrapped tightly in warm wool, and shielded from the harshness of the sun and wind. But you are in Sparta. Here, the very air feels like it has been sharpened against a whetstone. Your first memory is not of a soft cradle, but of the cold, steady hands of the elders. Before you were even allowed to return to your mother's breast, your father had to carry you to the Lesche, the place where the oldest members of your tribe sat in judgment. You were stripped bare and inspected. They looked at the thickness of your limbs and the clarity of your eyes. They were looking for a warrior, not a burden. Had you been weak or deformed, your story would have ended at the foot of Mount Taygetus, cast into a chasm. But you were deemed worthy. You were allowed to live not for yourself, but for the state. Now imagine you are 5 years old. You are standing in the courtyard of your home, and the sun is beating down on your shoulders. Spartan houses are not the sprawling, painted palaces you might find in Athens. There are no delicate frescoes on the walls or intricate mosaics under your feet. Your home is built of rough stone and heavy timber. It is functional, sturdy, and silent. There is an austerity here that feels like a weight. Everything about your environment is designed to ensure you never become comfortable. Comfort is seen as a slow poison that softens the spirit and rots the will. Your primary companion in these early years is your nurse. In the rest of the ancient world, Spartan nurses are legendary. Wealthy families from across the Mediterranean try to hire them because they are known for their iron discipline. Your nurse does not coddle you. When you were an infant, she refused to use swaddling clothes. While other Greek babies were bound like mummies to keep their limbs straight and their bodies warm, you were left free. Your arms and legs were exposed to the air so that you would grow accustomed to the cold and learn to move with agility from your very first months. If you cried, she did not rush to pick you up. You learned early that a scream brings no rescue. You learned to sit in the dark without fear because no one came to light a lamp just to soothe your nerves. You were taught to be content with whatever food was placed before you. If the broth was bitter or the bread was hard, you ate it without complaint. To be finicky about food was considered a sign of a weak mind. This is your first lesson in the Spartan way of life. Your body is a tool, and you must be its master, not its slave. You look at your mother. She is not like the women of other cities who spend their days behind veils, weaving wool in the shadows of the inner chambers. Your mother is tall, her skin tanned by the sun because she spends her mornings in the gymnasium. She runs, she wrestles, and she throws the javelin. She believes that only strong women can give birth to strong men. When she looks at you, there is pride, but it is a fierce, demanding kind of love. She does not tell you stories of heroes to entertain you. She tells you stories of heroes so that you will emulate them. She reminds you that your life belongs to the city and that your greatest honor will be to stand in the phalanx and never retreat. The atmosphere of your home is quiet. Spartans are famous for their brevity of speech, what the world calls laconic wit. You are taught to listen more than you speak. When you do speak, your words must be like a spear point, sharp, direct, and purposeful. There is no room for whining or for the long, flowery arguments that the Athenians love so much. If you ask for something, you ask simply. If you are told to do something, you do it immediately. You spend your days playing with other boys of your age, but even your play is a form of preparation. You do not play with dolls or toy chariots. You run races until your lungs burn. You wrestle in the dirt until your skin is scraped and your muscles ache. You are encouraged to compete in everything. Who can run the fastest? Who can climb the rugged hills the quickest? Who can endure the heat of the midday sun without asking for water? Your father watches these contests from the shade of the porch. He rarely speaks words of praise. His approval is shown in a nod or a steady gaze. You crave that nod more than anything else in the world. The meals in your home are simple. You sit at a wooden table and eat barley bread, cheese, and perhaps some figs. Meat is a luxury, usually reserved for the communal meals of the men or for religious festivals. You learn to appreciate the taste of simple things. You learn that hunger is the best seasoning. This lack of excess is not because your family is poor. On the contrary, your family owns land and has helots, the state slaves, to work it for you. You have plenty of resources, but to use them for luxury would be a disgrace. To be a Spartan is to live with the bare minimum so that your spirit remains sharp. As you reach your 6th year, the shadow of a great change begins to fall over your life. You notice the way your mother looks at you. There is a new intensity in her eyes, a mixture of solemnity and expectation. You see your father cleaning his bronze shield, the large circular hoplon that reflects the sun like a second sun. He tells you about the agoge, the state training system that every Spartan boy must enter when he turns 7. He tells you that soon you will leave this house. You will leave the care of your nurse and the protection of your mother. You walk through the streets of the city, and you see the older boys. They are lean and hard, their hair cropped short, their feet bare even on the sharp stones. They move with a synchronization that is beautiful and terrifying. You see them training in the fields, their bodies clashing in mock battles that look very much like real ones. You hear the rhythmic chanting of their songs and the sharp bark of the instructors. You know that this is your future. The home you have lived in for 7 years is a sanctuary, but it is a sanctuary that has been preparing you for its own loss. Every lesson your nurse taught you, every cold bath, every moment of silence in the dark, and every ignored tear was a brick in the foundation of the man you are meant to become. Your mother does not soften the blow of the coming transition. She tells you that when you leave, you must not look back. She tells you that you are going to become a part of something much larger than a family. You are going to become a part of the walls of Sparta. In these final days of your early childhood, you sit by the hearth. The fire casts long shadows against the stone walls. You feel the weight of the tradition that surrounds you. You are the descendant of Hercules, a son of the Dorians, and a citizen of the most feared military power in the world. Your life has been a series of tests from the moment you were born, and you have passed them all so far. But the real trial is about to begin. The soft life of a child, even a Spartan child, is ending. The city is waiting for you. It does not want your affection or your dreams. It wants your strength, your obedience, and, eventually, your life. You look at your small hands and wonder if they will be strong enough to hold the heavy spear. You look at your feet and wonder if they will be fast enough to keep up with the pack. You do not feel fear, because you have been taught that fear is a choice you do not have the right to make. You feel a strange, cold excitement. You are ready to step out of the shadows of your home and into the blinding light of the Spartan sun. The time of the nurses is over. The time of the soldiers is at hand. The morning air in the valley of Laconia is crisp, and the sun has barely begun to touch the peaks of Mount Taygetus. For 6 years, you have lived in the shadows of your mother and the nurses, playing with wooden swords and listening to stories of heroes. But today, the play stops. Today is your 7th birthday, and in any other city in the Greek world, this might be a day for gifts or a small family feast. In Sparta, it is the day you cease to belong to your parents and begin to belong to the state. You stand in the courtyard of your home, feeling the chill of the earth beneath your bare feet. Your mother does not weep. She does not pull you into a long, desperate embrace or whisper through tears that she will miss you. To do so would be to shame you, and in this city, shame is a fate worse than death. Instead, she looks at you with eyes as hard as the limestone of the mountains. She might straighten your tunic one last time, her hands firm and steady. Her voice is calm when she tells you to come back with your shield or on it. It is a command, not a wish. You are being handed over to something much larger than a family. You are being folded into the machine of the Spartan state. The men arrive shortly after dawn. They are not strangers, but they carry an authority that makes them feel distant. These are the officials of the Agoge, the rigorous training system that will define every waking second of your life for the next 13 years. Your father stands by the door, his face a mask of stoic pride. He has walked this path before you, and he knows exactly what awaits you. He does not offer a soft word of encouragement. He simply nods, a silent acknowledgement that you are now entering the world of men. As you walk away from your home, you do not look back. To look back is to show weakness, to show that you are still a child tethered to the hearth. You follow the officials through the winding streets of Sparta. The city is not like Athens with its grand marble temples and towering monuments. Sparta is a collection of villages, modest and functional. The true monuments of this city are not made of stone. They are made of flesh and bone. You are one of those monuments in the making. You arrive at the barracks, and the scale of your new life begins to settle in. There are hundreds of other boys, all 7 years old, all standing in various states of uncertainty. You are no longer an individual with a name given by your father. You are now a member of an agila, a herd. This word is chosen intentionally. Like a pack of young hunting dogs or a herd of cattle, you will move together, eat together, and eventually fight together. The sense of I is being systematically replaced by we. The first thing you notice is the noise. It is not the sound of children playing. It is the sound of rhythmic chanting, the barking of orders, and the heavy thud of feet hitting the dirt in unison. The air is thick with the smell of sweat, dry earth, and wood smoke. You are introduced to the paidonomos, the magistrate in charge of the entire agoge. He is a man of immense power, a figure of absolute discipline. Under him are the Irenes, the older boys in their late teens who act as your immediate masters. These older boys are not your friends. They are your overseers, tasked with breaking your will and reshaping it into something harder. The transition is immediate and physical. The soft, colorful tunics of your childhood are taken away. In their place, you are given nothing but a single coarse cloak. This is your garment for the entire year, regardless of the season. In the blistering heat of the Laconian summer, you will sweat beneath it. In the bone-chilling damp of the winter, it will be your only protection against the frost. You are also stripped of your sandals. From this day forward, you will walk, run, and climb barefoot. The elders believe that sandals make the feet soft, while the bare earth makes them like horn. At first, every pebble and sharp stone will feel like a knife against your skin. You will limp, and your soles will bleed. But within months, your feet will become calloused and thick, capable of traversing the jagged mountain paths as easily as if you were wearing the finest leather boots. Your hair, which might have been kept neat by your mother, is now cropped short. Your appearance is being standardized. Every boy around you looks exactly like you. You are becoming a mirror image of your peers, a single cell in the body of the Spartan army. The most jarring change, however, is the sleeping arrangement. You do not return to a bed of wool or a warm room. You are led to the banks of the Eurotas River. Here you are told to gather reeds. You cannot use a knife or any tool. You must pull the reeds from the riverbed and break them with your bare hands. The stalks are tough and the edges are sharp, slicing into your palms as you struggle to gather enough for a mat. This pile of broken river plants is your bed. It offers no warmth and no cushioning against the hard ground. On cold nights, you will learn to huddle with the other boys in your herd, using collective body heat to survive the dark hours. This is your first lesson in the necessity of your comrades. Alone, you will freeze. Together, you might survive. The sun begins to set on your first day, and the hunger sets in. The rations provided by the state are intentionally meager. You are given just enough to keep you alive, but never enough to feel full. The Spartan philosophy is that a full stomach makes a soldier sluggish and dull. A hungry soldier is alert, cunning, and motivated. You look at the bowl of black broth set before you, a mixture of boiled pig's blood, salt, and vinegar. It is bitter and harsh, but you find yourself scraping the bottom of the bowl. The Irenes watch you eat. They are looking for signs of complaint or hesitation. If you speak out of turn, or if you show that you are still mourning the comforts of your home, the punishment is swift. Discipline in the agoge is maintained through the lash. You will see boys beaten for the smallest infractions, and they are expected to endure the pain without a single cry. To cry out is to admit that the pain has mastery over you. In Sparta, you are expected to have mastery over the pain. As you lie on your bed of reeds that first night, the silence of the barracks is heavy. You can hear the breathing of the other boys, some of them perhaps stifling a quiet sob in the dark, though they would never admit it in the light of day. The stars above the Eurotas Valley are bright, the same stars you saw from your window just 24 hours ago, but you are not the same child who looked at them then. You have been initiated into a world where your value is measured by your endurance and your loyalty to the group. You realize that the next 7 years will be a constant test. You will be pushed to the limits of exhaustion. You will be forced to hunt and steal just to supplement your meager meals, with the understanding that if you are caught, you will be beaten not for the theft, but for the clumsiness of being discovered. You will be taught to read and write, but only enough to serve the needs of the state. Your real education will be in the songs of war, the cadence of the march, and the unwavering obedience to the law. The separation is complete. The life of the family, with its warmth and its individual affections, is now a memory. The Agoge has swallowed you. You are no longer a son of a house. You are a ward of the city-state. As sleep finally takes you on your bed of jagged reeds, your feet throbbing and your stomach growling, you understand the fundamental truth of your new existence. You are being forged. The fire is hot, the hammer is heavy, and the anvil is the hard earth of Sparta. You will either be broken by this process, or you will emerge as something the rest of the world fears. The 7-year-old boy who walked through the door this morning is gone. In his place, a Spartan is beginning to grow. Imagine waking up on a bed that you built with your own bare hands. It is not a mattress of wool or even a simple straw pallet. It is a heap of sharp, jagged reeds that you pulled from the banks of the Eurotas River. You did not use a knife to cut them. You were told to break them off with your fingers, your skin stinging from the slices the grass left behind. This is your bed, and it is your first lesson of the day. It is cold, it is uncomfortable, and it offers no rest for the weary. But as you stand up in the pre-dawn chill, you realize that the discomfort of the reeds is nothing compared to the hollow, aching void in your stomach. By the time you reach the age of 12, the Spartan state decides that your childhood, or what little was left of it, is officially over. They take away your tunic. From now on, regardless of whether it is the height of a blistering summer or the dead of a freezing mountain winter, you are permitted only one garment. A single, heavy wool cloak known as the kleina. You wear it until it is threadbare. You wear it until it smells of sweat and earth. You wear it because it is all you have to protect you from the world. But more than the cold, it is the hunger that defines your new existence. The masters of the Agoge, the men who watch your every move with predatory eyes, have a very specific reason for keeping you on the brink of starvation. In their minds, a well-fed soldier is a slow soldier. A man with a full belly is a man who is content, and a content man is not a phantom in the night. They want you lean. They want you tall. They believe that if your body is not busy processing a heavy meal, it will instead put that energy into growing upward, making you a more imposing figure on the battlefield. But the physical growth is almost a side effect. The real goal is to turn you into a hunter. When the communal meal is served, you look down at your bowl. It is filled with the infamous Spartan black broth, a concoction of boiled pig's blood, vinegar, and salt. There is perhaps a small piece of pork if you are lucky, but it is never enough. It is never meant to be enough. You swallow the bitter, metallic liquid, and your stomach immediately growls for more. You look at the boys around you. Their eyes are the same as yours. They are the eyes of wolves. This is where the next phase of your education begins. The state does not provide you with enough food to survive, yet they expect you to thrive. The message is clear. If you want to eat, you must find a way to take it. You are officially encouraged to steal. Think about what that does to your mind. While the rest of the Greek world is teaching their children the virtues of honesty and the sanctity of property, Sparta is teaching you how to move through the shadows without making a sound. You are being taught to watch the patterns of the farmers in the surrounding fields. You are being taught to find the weaknesses in a kitchen pantry or the blind spots of a shepherd. You wait until the moon is obscured by clouds. You and your small group of peers, your pack, slip out of the barracks. The ground is cold beneath your bare feet, but you have learned how to step so that not even a dry leaf crunches. You move toward the outskirts of the city, toward the estates of the wealthy or the storehouses of the helots. You are looking for anything: a handful of olives, a loaf of barley bread, a wedge of cheese, or perhaps a young pig if you are feeling bold. The stakes are higher than you can imagine. This is not a game of schoolboy pranks. In Sparta, if you are caught stealing, you are not punished for the act of theft itself. In fact, the elders might even praise the ambition of a boy who tries to take what he needs. No, if you are caught, you are punished for being a failure. You are punished for being clumsy, for being loud, and for being slow. You are punished for getting caught. The penalty is a public flogging that would break a grown man. The whip is made of heavy leather, and it does not just sting, it tears. You are expected to endure this lashing without a single cry, without a tear, and without a plea for mercy. To show pain is to admit that you are weak. To show pain is to prove that you are not yet a Spartan. You will be mocked by your peers and shamed by your family. So you learn to be silent. You learn to be invisible. You learn to be the perfect thief because the alternative is a physical and social agony that is far worse than the gnawing hunger in your gut. There is a famous story that every Spartan boy knows, a story that likely haunts your dreams as you lie on your bed of reeds. It is the tale of the boy and the fox. As the legend goes, a young Spartan had successfully stolen a live fox from a nearby woods. Before he could return to his barracks to feast or hide his prize, he was intercepted by one of the instructors. To reveal the fox would be to admit his theft before he had successfully completed it. To be seen with the stolen animal was to be caught. Instead of dropping the fox and running, or confessing his crime, the boy shoved the live animal under his single-wool cloak. He stood there, perfectly still, as the instructor engaged him in conversation. The fox, terrified and wild, began to claw at the boy's stomach. It began to bite. It began to literally eat its way into his torso. The boy did not flinch. He did not cry out. He stood his ground and spoke calmly, maintaining his composure even as his internal organs were being shredded beneath his garment. It was only after the instructor walked away that the boy collapsed and died. To the Spartans, this boy was not a tragedy. He was a hero. He was the gold standard. He chose death over the shame of being a mediocre thief. This story serves as a constant pressure on your shoulders. It tells you that your life is secondary to your discipline. It tells you that the eyes of the city are always on you, even when you are alone in the dark. But the Agoge has even more brutal ways to test your ability to steal under pressure. One of the most terrifying events you must face takes place at the altar of Artemis Orthia. This is a religious sanctuary, a place of supposed holiness, but in Sparta, even the gods demand blood and grit. The priests place a mountain of delicious cheeses upon the altar. You and your fellow boys are lined up, and you are given a simple task. Run to the altar and steal as much cheese as you can. Sounds easy, perhaps even like a celebration after weeks of starvation. But there is a catch. Standing between you and that altar are older youths armed with heavy whips. Their job is to lash you with everything they have as you try to grab the food. You see the first boy run forward. He is fast, but the whips are faster. The crack of leather against skin echoes through the sanctuary. He manages to grab a small wedge of cheese before he is knocked to the ground, his back a map of rising red welts. He crawls away, clutching his prize, his face a mask of stoic iron. Now it is your turn. You run. The air is kicked out of your lungs as a whip catches you across the ribs. You don't stop. You can't stop. You reach the altar, the smell of the cheese filling your nose, a cruel contrast to the smell of your own sweat and the metallic tang of blood in the air. You grab what you can, your fingers slick, and you turn to run back through the gauntlet. Every strike of the whip is a lesson. It teaches you that the things you need to survive, food, resources, victory, will always come at a price of physical pain. You learn to associate the reward of a full stomach with the endurance of a broken body. By the time you are a teenager, your relationship with the world has fundamentally shifted. You do not see a garden as a place of beauty. You see it as a collection of caloric values and entry points. You do not see the night as a time for sleep. You see it as a cloak that hides your movements. You have become a shadow. You are lean, your ribs visible beneath skin that has been toughened by the sun and the lash. You move with a predatory grace that the pampered children of Athens or Corinth could never understand. You are being forged into a weapon that does not require a supply line. While other armies must worry about wagons of grain and slow-moving herds of cattle, a Spartan army is made of men who can live off the land, who can steal from the enemy before the enemy even knows they are there, and who can endure days of marching without a single meal. The hunger never truly leaves you. It becomes a part of your identity. It is the fire that keeps you sharp. You realize that the school of scarcity was not just about food. It was about the mastery of the self. If you can control your hunger, if you can control your fear of pain, if you can control your impulse to cry out when the fox bites, then you can control the battlefield. As you lie back down on your reeds at the end of a long night, your stomach finally quieted by a stolen scrap of meat, you look at the stars and realize that the boy who entered the Agoge is dead. In his place is something much more dangerous. You are a creature of the dark, a master of the silent theft, and a survivor who knows that in Sparta, the only sin is being caught. The shadows are no longer your enemy. They are your home, and the art of theft has become the art of war. You stand at the edge of the training grounds and look out toward the dark, jagged peaks of Mount Taygetus. The sun is dipping below the horizon, casting long, bloody streaks of crimson across the Peloponnesian sky. For years you have lived in the barracks. You have eaten at the common mess. You have bled on the wrestling floor and suffered the lash of the whip without a whimper. But today the nature of your education changes. You are 18 years old, a young man on the cusp of full citizenship, yet you are not yet a soldier of the phalanx. Before you can stand in the sun with a bronze shield and a spear, you must first learn to survive in the dark. A senior official, one of the ephors who oversee the laws of the state, approaches you. He does not offer a speech of encouragement or a warm embrace. Instead, he hands you a small, sharp iron dagger and a rough wool cloak. There is no armor. There are no sandals. There is no supply of grain or a flask of wine. You are being cast out of the city and into the wilderness of the Laconian countryside. You are now a member of the Cryptia, the secret ones. This is your final test, a rite of passage that will strip away the last remnants of your childhood and replace them with the cold, calculating instincts of a predator. You wrap the cloak around your shoulders and feel the chill of the evening air. The rules are simple and brutal. You must live off the land. You must remain unseen. And you must fulfill a dark duty to the state. Every year, the Ephors declare war on the Helots, the massive population of state-owned serfs who work the land and provide the food that keeps Sparta alive. This declaration is a legal formality that ensures no religious stain or blood guilt falls upon a Spartan who kills a Helot. To the Spartan mind, the Helots are a constant threat, a boiling sea of resentment that outnumbers the true citizens by 7-1. Your task is to act as the hidden hand of the state, to cull the strongest and most rebellious among them, and to keep the rest paralyzed by a deep and pervasive fear. As you step away from the flickering torches of the city and into the absolute blackness of the scrubland, your senses sharpen. You have been trained since the age of 7 to ignore pain and hunger, but this is different. In the Agoge, you were part of a pack. Now you are alone in the shadows. You move through the undergrowth with the silence of a ghost. Your bare feet have been toughened by years of running over rocks and thorns, allowing you to move across the uneven terrain without snapping a single dry twig. You find a high vantage point under the cover of a thick thicket and settle in to wait. The world of the Helot is one of constant toil. From your hiding spot, you watch a small village in the valley below. You see the flickering hearth fires and hear the distant lowing of cattle. These people are the descendants of those conquered by your ancestors generations ago. They are the backbone of the Spartan economy, but they are also the greatest internal enemy of the state. You have heard stories of the great Helot revolts, of times when the earth shook and the serfs rose up to try and slit the throats of their masters. The Cryptia exists to ensure that such a day never comes again. You are not just a trainee. You are a shadow policeman, a silent guardian of the social order. During the day, you must disappear. You find a narrow crevice in the rocks or burrow into a dense patch of ferns. You do not light a fire, for smoke is a beacon that would give away your position. You eat what you can find or steal. Perhaps it is a handful of wild berries, a raw egg from a bird's nest, or a piece of livestock snatched from a remote pasture in the dead of night. The hunger is a familiar companion, but the isolation is new. In the barracks, there was always the sound of breathing, the clatter of wooden training swords, and the rough laughter of your peers. Here, there is only the wind whistling through the mountain passes and the rhythmic thumping of your own heart. You spend your days observing. You look for the Helots who carry themselves with too much pride. You look for the ones who are physically powerful, the natural leaders who might organize a resistance. You look for the young men who speak in hushed, urgent tones when they think no one is listening. You are learning the art of surveillance. You are learning that information is as lethal as any blade. You map out the paths they take to the fields. You note which houses are isolated from the rest of the village. You are not looking for a fair fight. The Cryptia does not value honor in the way the Phalanx does. In the Phalanx, you stand shoulder to shoulder and meet the enemy face to face. In the Cryptia, you are taught the value of the ambush, the sudden strike from the dark, and the psychological power of an invisible enemy. One night, the moon is obscured by heavy clouds. This is the moment you have been waiting for. You descend from your mountain perch, moving with a fluid, predatory grace. The village is silent. You reach the edge of a small stone hut on the outskirts. Inside, a man who has shown signs of defiance sleeps, unaware that the state has marked him. You do not feel the hesitation a normal youth might feel. Your entire life has been a preparation for this cold efficiency. You enter the dwelling like a breath of wind. The iron of your dagger is cold in your hand. The act is over in a heartbeat, silent and final. You do not linger. You do not take trophies. You melt back into the trees before the first cock crows or the morning mist begins to rise. This cycle continues for weeks, perhaps months. You become a creature of the wilderness. Your skin grows dark and weathered. Your cloak is tattered and stained with the red earth of Laconia. You learn the language of the owls and the movements of the wolves. You realize that the city you left behind is a fragile island of order in a vast and dangerous world. The Cryptia is teaching you the most important lesson a Spartan can learn. You are taught that your survival and the survival of your people depend on a ruthless, unyielding vigilance. You are being hardened into the iron that will form the wall of the city. There is a psychological weight to this experience that stays with a Spartan for the rest of his life. You have seen the underbelly of your society. You have lived in the dirt and the dark to ensure that others can live in the light. This creates a bond between you and your fellow members of the Cryptia that is different from the brotherhood of the Agoge. It is a shared secret, a shared understanding of the cost of power. When you finally return to the city, you are no longer the boy who was frightened of the dark or the youth who struggled to steal a piece of cheese. You are a man who has looked into the abyss and mastered it. The elders greet you with a nod of grim approval. You have survived the mountains. You have fulfilled your duty. You have proven that you can be trusted with the most sensitive and brutal tasks of the state. You are now ready to take your place in the Sisisha, the communal mess hall where you will spend the rest of your life eating and living with your fellow soldiers. You have earned your right to wear the red cloak of the hoplite, but beneath that cloak, you will always carry the lessons of the Cryptia. You will always know how to move in the shadows. You will always be watching for the slightest sign of weakness or rebellion. As you sit at the long wooden table of your mess for the first time as a near equal, the smell of the black broth and the sound of deep voices fill the room. You look at the men around you, the veterans of a dozen battles, and you see the same look in their eyes that you now see in your own reflection. It is the look of a man who knows that peace is merely an interval between conflicts. It is the look of a man who understands that the strength of Sparta is not found in stone walls, but in the hearts of men who are willing to do whatever is necessary to protect their way of life. The Cryptia has ended, but your life as a guardian of the flame has only just begun. You have passed through the shadows, and you have emerged as a weapon of the state. You stand on the edge of the dramos, the running track, and for the first time in your life, you are not the one waiting for an order. You are 20 years old. The sun of the Peloponnese beats down on your shoulders, which have broadened with years of carrying heavy stones and heavier shields. Your skin is leathered by the elements, and the soles of your feet are so thick and calloused that you could walk over broken glass or burning embers without flinching. You have passed the most brutal trials of your youth, and you have survived the isolation of the wilderness. Now you have been given a new title. You are an iron. In the eyes of the world outside Sparta, you would be considered a man. In many Greek city-states, a 20-year-old might be looking toward marriage or starting a trade. But here, in the valley of the Eurotas, you are simply a senior student who has earned the right to lead. You are the bridge between the children who tremble in the shadows and the seasoned warriors who sit in the councils of power. The word iron itself carries the weight of responsibility. It marks you as a leader of the youth. You are no longer merely a part of the pack. You are now the one who must shape it. Look at the boys standing before you. They are 12, 13, 14 years old. They look at you with a mixture of terror and absolute reverence. You remember being where they are. You remember the hunger that gnaws at the belly until it becomes a constant, vibrating roar. You remember the cold nights spent sleeping on reeds you plucked with your own hands. But now the roles have shifted. You are their commander. You are the one who oversees their progress, who monitors their thefts, and who administers their punishments. As an iron, your primary duty is to the next generation. You are assigned a group of younger boys, and their successes or failures are now a direct reflection of your leadership. You lead them in their exercises, but more importantly, you lead them in their survival. You sit with them during their evening meals, presiding over them like a young king. It is your job to keep them sharp. You might point to one boy and demand he answer a question. What is the greatest virtue of a soldier? Who is the bravest man in our history? The boy must answer, and he must do so with the famous Spartan brevity. We call it laconic wit. If he babbles, if he takes too long to get to the point, or if his answer is foolish, you will punish him. You might bite his thumb or strike him, not out of cruelty, but because a Spartan who cannot think under pressure is a liability on the battlefield. You are teaching them that words are like spears. They must be sharp, they must be aimed well, and they must never be wasted. But your life as an iron is not just about commanding children. It is about your own transition into the most exclusive club in the world, the mess hall or the Sicilia. In any other city, a man eats with his family. He dines with his wife and children in the privacy of his home. In Sparta, that is a foreign concept. To be a true citizen, to be one of the equals, you must be elected to a public mess. This is perhaps the most stressful moment of your young adult life. Imagine the scene. You are led into a long, low building. The air inside is thick with the smell of roasting meat and the pungent, sour scent of the black broth that is the staple of every Spartan meal. Sitting at the long wooden tables are the men you have looked up to your entire life. These are the victors of Thermopylae, the heroes of the border wars, the men whose names are whispered with awe. They are your elders, and they are about to decide your fate. Each member of the mess holds a piece of bread in his hand. As you stand before them, they walk past a bowl. If they approve of you, they drop the bread into the bowl just as it is. If they reject you, they squeeze the bread until it is flat. This is the secret ballot of the mess hall. If even one single piece of bread is flattened, you are rejected. 1 man out of 15 can end your dreams of citizenship. To be rejected from a Sicilia is to be cast into a social limbo. You would lose your status. You would never be a full Spartan. You would be a man without a place. You wait in the silence, your heart hammering against your ribs like a trapped bird. You have faced wolves in the mountains and fought with wooden staves until the ground was slick with blood. But this silence is more terrifying than any physical combat. Then the word comes. You have been accepted. You are now a member of a mess. You are now responsible for contributing to this table. Every month, you must provide your share of barley, wine, cheese, and figs. You must hunt for the meat that will be shared here. You are no longer a ward of the state. You are a provider for your brothers in arms. Now you sit among them. You taste the black broth for the first time as a member. It is a legendary concoction of boiled pig blood, salt, and vinegar. To an outsider, it is disgusting. A visitor from another city once joked that he finally understood why Spartans were so willing to die, because death was preferable to eating this broth. But to you, it tastes of home. It tastes of strength. It is the fuel of the phalanx. As an iron, you are also entering the prime of your military service. You are now a hoplite. You have been given your shield, the aspes. It is a massive, circular hunk of wood and bronze, nearly 3 feet across and weighing almost 20 pounds. This shield is the most important thing you own. It is not designed to protect just you. It is designed to protect the man to your left. When you stand in the phalanx, your shield overlaps with his, creating a wall of bronze that is nearly impenetrable. The training takes on a new intensity. You spend hours practicing the push. The phalanx is not just a line of men stabbing with spears. It is a living machine of muscle and bronze. You learn how to brace your shoulder against the curve of the shield. You learn how to plant your feet in the dust and push with the collective weight of your entire unit. You feel the breath of the man behind you on your neck, his hand on your shoulder, urging you forward. This is the moment where all the individual suffering of the Agoge turns into collective power. You are no longer an individual. You are a cell in the body of Sparta. But being an iron also means you are under constant scrutiny. The elders, the men over 60 who have finished their military service, spend their days watching you. They congregate in the gymnasiums and the marketplaces, leaning on their staffs, observing every move you make. They are looking for signs of weakness, certainly, but they are also looking for signs of pride. A Spartan must be confident, but he must never be arrogant. If you boast too loudly of your strength, an elder will be there to cut you down with a single biting sentence. They are the keepers of the Spartan code, and they ensure that the fire of the state never flickers. You find yourself walking through the streets of the city, and you notice the way the younger boys scramble out of your way. They see the red cloak you are now permitted to wear on certain occasions. They see the way you carry yourself. You realize that you are now the guardian of the tradition that once terrified you. You are the one who will ensure that the fire of Sparta continues to burn. At night, as you lie on your mat in the barracks, you think about the boys you led today. You think about the one who failed to answer your question, the one you had to punish. You do not feel anger toward him. You feel a strange, fierce kind of love. You punish him because the world will be much crueler to him than you ever will be. You punish him because one day, his life and the lives of the men next to him will depend on his ability to stay calm when the air is filled with arrows and the ground is red with blood. By the time you reach your late 20s, your role as an iron becomes even more refined. You are a seasoned veteran of the training fields, and perhaps you have even seen your first skirmishes on the borders. You understand that your strength is a gift to the city, and your discipline is the only thing standing between Sparta and the chaos of the outside world. You look at your shield, dented and scratched, and you see not just a tool, but a symbol of your belonging. In the quiet moments, you might reflect on the boys you were raised with. Some did not make it this far. Some fell in training, others were lost to the harsh trials of the wilderness. But you are here. You are the survivor. You are the weapon. And soon, when you reach 30, you will take your place as a peer. You will be a full citizen, a master of your own claros or plot of land, and a voting member of the assembly. But you will never stop being a soldier. You will never stop eating in the mess hall. You will never stop being a part of the machine. You stand in the sunlight of the training ground one last time before the evening meal. You watch the newest crop of 7-year-olds being brought in, their eyes wide and frightened. You feel the weight of your spear in your hand and the solid presence of your mess brothers nearby. This is what it means to grow up in Sparta. It is a life of constant testing, of unbreakable bonds, and of absolute devotion to something greater than yourself. You are the iron. You are the leader, and the next generation is waiting for you to show them the way. As the sun dips below the Taygetos Mountains, casting long, purple shadows across the valley, you gather your young charges. You lead them back to the barracks, your pace steady and tireless. You do not look back. You look forward, to the battles yet to be fought and the men yet to be made. You are the steel in the heart of Greece. You are the living proof that through hardship, a soul can be forged into something eternal. Walk tall, iron. The glory of Sparta is yours to uphold. The line must never break. The shield must never fall, and the fire of the agoge must never, ever go out. You are 20 years old, and for the first time in your life, you are no longer a boy. The agoge is behind you, a blur of cold nights, hunger, and the sharp sting of the switch. You have survived the trials that broke others, and you have emerged with a body like tempered steel and a mind that knows only one thing: the survival of the state. But do not think for a moment that your journey is over. In Sparta, reaching adulthood is not a release from the system. It is the moment you are finally folded into the machinery of the city. You are now an iron, a young man of fighting age, but you are not yet a full citizen. You are in a strange, liminal space. You are a soldier who can be called to war at any moment, yet you do not yet have the right to vote or hold office. Your life is no longer about proving you can survive alone in the wilderness. Now, you must prove that you can survive as part of a whole. The first and most terrifying hurdle of your adult life is the election. To be a true Spartan, you must be elected into a syssitia, one of the common mess halls where the men eat every night. Think of this as more than just a dinner club. This is your family. These are the 15 or 20 men you will live with, fight with, and if necessary, die with. If you are not accepted into a mess, you are nothing. You become an inferior, a man without a place, a ghost in your own city. The voting process is silent and brutal. Each member of the mess takes a piece of soft bread and rolls it into a ball. They walk past a bowl and drop the ball in. If they approve of you, the ball stays round. If they reject you, they squeeze the bread flat with their thumb. When the bowl is emptied, if there is even one flattened piece of bread, your application is rejected. You have failed. You are cast out. But let us imagine you have passed. You have been accepted. You now take your place at the long wooden table. The air is thick with the smell of the black broth, a concoction of boiled pig's blood, vinegar, and salt. To any other Greek, it is a disgusting sludge. To you, it is the taste of home and strength. In this room, there is no luxury. You eat your portion, you listen to the stories of the older men, and you learn the final lessons of Spartan life. You are taught that the mess is the heartbeat of the army. This is where the bonds of the phalanx are forged, long before you ever step onto a battlefield. Now, imagine the day you are finally handed your panoply, the full equipment of a hoplite. You stand in the dim light of your family home or the armory, and you feel the weight of the bronze. First comes the greaves, the shin guards that snap onto your calves with a sharp metallic ring. They are lined with felt to prevent the bronze from chafing your skin. Then you pull on the cuirass, the breastplate. It is a heavy, rigid shell that presses against your chest and back. It limits your breathing and makes every movement feel deliberate and slow. On your head goes the Corinthian helmet. When you lower the visor, your world narrows. You can no longer see to your left or your right. You can only see what is directly in front of you. Your hearing is muffled, replaced by the sound of your own heavy breathing echoing inside the bronze dome. Then you take up the shield. This is the aspes, the most important object you will ever own. It is a massive, circular dish of wood, faced with a thin layer of bronze and backed with leather. It is heavy, nearly 20 pounds, and it does not hang from your arm like a toy. You slide your arm through the central band, the porpax, and grip the handle at the edge, the anti-labe. When you hold it, you realize the fundamental truth of Spartan warfare. The shield is not designed to protect you. It is too large for one man and leaves your right side exposed. It is designed to protect the man standing to your left. Your shield covers his unshielded side, and the man to your right covers yours. You are not an individual fighter. You are a single scale on the hide of a great bronze serpent. In your right hand, you balance the dory, the 7-foot spear with an ashwood shaft and an iron head. At the bottom is the sauroder, the lizard kicker, a bronze spike that serves as a counterweight and a secondary weapon if the main head breaks. You feel the balance point. You feel the lethality of the tool. You are no longer the boy who ran barefoot through the mountains. You are a hoplite. Now walk with me to the training field. The sun is hot on your bronze shoulders. You are standing in the phalanx, 8 ranks deep and hundreds of men wide. The heat is stifling. The smell of sweat and hot metal is everywhere. You are packed so tightly that you can feel the breath of the man behind you on your neck. You can feel the shoulder of the man to your left pressing against yours. There is no room to move, no room to turn. You are locked in. The commander gives the order, and the flute players begin to play. This is a detail many people forget. Spartans do not charge into battle screaming like barbarians. They march to the steady, rhythmic pulse of the aulos, the double pipe. The high, haunting notes cut through the air, and you move in perfect unison. Left, right, left, right. The sound of thousands of sandals hitting the earth at the exact same moment sounds like thunder. It is a psychological weapon. Your enemies see a wall of bronze moving toward them with the cold, mechanical precision of a machine. They see no fear, no hesitation, and no gaps. As the enemy line approaches, the tension becomes almost unbearable. Your grip on the spear tightens. Your knuckles are white. The commander shouts for the othismos, the shove. This is the moment of impact. You do not just swing swords. You slam your shield into the man in front of you with the full weight of your body. The men behind you press their shields into your back, pushing you forward. It is a literal mountain of human flesh and bronze pushing against another mountain. The air is filled with the sound of wood splintering and bronze grinding against bronze. You are gasping for air in the crush. You are stabbing over the top of the shields, aiming for the neck or the eyes of the enemy. You are stabbing under the shields, aiming for the groin or the thighs. In this moment, everything you learned in the agoge comes to the surface. You do not run, because if you run, the man to your left dies. You do not break rank, because if you break rank, the city falls. Your entire existence has been a preparation for this suffocating, violent embrace. You look at the man next to you. You shared black broth with him this morning. You slept on the same floor as him last night. You will not let him down. The red cloak you wear, the phoenikes, serves a grim purpose. It is the color of blood. If you are wounded, the red wool hides the stain, ensuring that your enemies do not see you bleed and your comrades are not discouraged. It makes the entire army look like a river of blood flowing across the plain. It is a symbol of your status as a peer, an equal. When the battle is over and the dust settles, you do not celebrate with wild abandon. You collect your dead, you set up a simple trophy of captured arms, and you march back to the mess hall. By the time you reach 30, you are finally a full citizen. You are allowed to grow your hair long, a mark of a free man who does not have to labor for his bread. You are allowed to marry and live in a house with a wife, though you still eat your evening meals at the mess. You have reached the pinnacle of the Spartan dream. You are a master of the most feared military force in the known world. You walk through the streets of Sparta and you notice something. There are no great walls surrounding the city. Every other Greek city has massive stone fortifications to keep out invaders. When a visitor asks why Sparta has no walls, you point to the men standing in the marketplace. You point to the phalanx training on the field. You say that these are the walls of Sparta, and every man is a brick. You realize that your entire life, From the moment you were inspected as a newborn to the moment you took your place in the line, has been about becoming that brick. You are no longer an individual. You are a part of the wall. And as long as you stand firm, the fire of Sparta will never go out. Your identity is gone, replaced by the cold, beautiful bronze of the state. You are a Spartan. You are a soldier. You are home.